G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you, and I'm here. I'm here out on the balcony here in very sunny Lefkada, and we're actually in a small town called Vasiliki. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Live stream after the ZR was launched, and due to all of the travel, this is the first opportunity I've really had to sit down and do a live stream. The travel, along with just getting the time zones kind of right. Even so, the time is completely different. I've been at the beach today, so if I look a little bit beachy and a little bit disheveled, well, you know the reason why. Now, first, I wanted to start off. Yes, I want to talk about the ZR, and of course, since the ZR launch, or the Z-Red ZR has been launched, we've also had a teaser from the official Nikon cinema page in regards to Z cinema lenses. So they're the two things I want to talk about, two main things. We've also had the launch of the Sigma 135 1.4, which is even more epic than the Planner. I would love to, at some stage, test that lens out. Who knows? Maybe I can get in touch with Sigma. Now, I'm just going to close a window here. I would like to say welcome to everybody that's in the chat. It is so good to see you. Roger, hello. There you are. Now, what have you written here? Curious that Nikon left still capability in the ZR software instead of making a total video camera. Any thoughts as to why? Yeah, look, that's a great question, and I'll answer that before I talk about the gear. I'm going to start by talking about the gear that I've taken away with me on this trip to Europe. At the end of the day, and I did shoot some stills on the ZR, and by the way, we're shooting on the Z6 III right now, and we've got the 50mm 1.8S. So that's what we're seeing here. This is the balcony of where I'm staying, and the sun is setting behind me. You can just make out the mountain over there, and the sun just went behind that mountain, and we'll see how the light goes over the course of the stream. I have put this on aperture priority, so we do have the short depth of field because I like that. Why did they do it? Well, we're basically told that a Z6 III and a ZR are very similar cameras. Now, whether the sensors are absolutely exactly the same or whether they've been slightly tweaked, I've heard slightly different things. At the end of the day, I think if they have been slightly tweaked, it's very slight and they're 95, 99% the same. I can certainly say without a shadow of a doubt that the images that come out of the Red RAW or the Red NE format, which is the 12-bit Red codec that's in the ZR, which is really, I suppose, the most important part. I was having a chat to my great friend Seth Miranda in New York, and we were sort of talking about, you know, the pros and cons of the ZR, and I said to him, look, you know, it might not be perfect. Some people don't like where the card slots are, and some people don't like the HDMI, and that's fine. I get it, and I think Nikon's done a great job with small rig to mitigate the HDMI thing, which I will get that cage and that cable as soon as possible to show everybody how that's kind of a non-issue if you mount the cage, because the cage protects the port. And then when it comes to the cards, well, that's an interesting one to me, because if you are going to shoot Red RAW, you're probably doing a professional shoot. And this is the cheapest. This is absolutely the cheapest way you can shoot some variant of Red RAW. And thus, you might buy yourself something like a 2 terabyte card. And if you buy yourself a 2 terabyte card, I can tell you that I was able to shoot around 2 hours of 24 frames per second in 6K Red RAW. And it was around 1.3 or 1.4 gigabytes, which means you could shoot something like 3 or 4 hours. I haven't done the maths. 3 or 4 hours on one card before you'd have to remove it. Now, I would say on most sets that if you're shooting more than 3 or 4 hours a day, then you're shooting a lot. Another thing that you can do is you can actually transfer files from the Type B card to the SD card if you want to back up. Now, sure, that's not fast and there is no backup and all that sort of thing. So, you know, for those who want backup, you're not going to get it from that micro SD slot. So anyway, I think I've gotten slightly off track. The thing I wanted to say was the ZR is about opportunity. It's about the opportunity for a small filmmaker, a documentarian, someone starting out to actually create something that's very, very high quality at a very, very low cost. And basically, my business over 35 years has been all about creating my own projects. And to be able to have this level of quality at that price point, absolutely amazing. Roger, sorry, to go back to your question, that was a bit of an offshoot there. To go back to your question, the fact that it's a Z6 III mostly, and so I kind of firstly say, why not? But the interesting thing about this enormous screen, and it really is significantly different from an area perspective. You know, if you think about diagonally moving out an inch, this is giving you this whole extra area of the screen. So you can certainly use the screen and sort of shoot at waist level, and that might be great for street and so on. But of course, there's every chance that they create an electronic EVF for it. I have seen the fact that there is going to be more things created for that digital hot shoe. An example of one, there's a website, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but you can check it out. And it's a tally light to go into the digital hot shoe for the ZR. So, you know, I think, and this is made by a third party. So where I'm going with that is I think there's every chance that Nikon or a third party could make a digital EVF, an EVF to go into that digital hot shoe, and then you've got a very similar experience to the Z6 III. Now, it's very similar up to the point of not having, and this is a busy street behind me. I don't know if you can hear that motorbike. And please let me know, is the sound and the picture, is everything okay? I forgot to ask that, and I should take a look at the comments. But besides it having a mechanical shutter, which it doesn't, the ZR, but the thing is, this sensor is so fast, and I use my Z6 III silent all the time. I never use the mechanical shutter. Now, I'm yet to see anybody sort of showing me rolling shutter with the Z6 III. Of course, you could make it happen if you try. We can break anything if we try hard enough. But I totally think it's a wonderful alternative. You know, if you're interested in video, if you're interested, also it's the form factor is very small. So that's my answer to the question. It's basically very similar to a Z6 III internally. So it's kind of like, why not? But I also think it could end up being a really great little camera. Like I talked about it in my launch video, that if you put some sort of muffin lens on the front of it and you don't have that EVF, it's a very, very small camera. It's really small. I don't know how Nikon got the thermal properties that camera has, because another thing about that is I ran the red codec in 6K, full-sized, 24 frames at 21 degrees, and it showed no sign of overheating. And we've seen other people, like Gerald Dunn ran it at 25 degrees Celsius, we're talking about here, no sign of overheating. Anyway, we've got some questions here. I best have a look at them. Welcome, Yawn, lovely to see you. And welcome, Matthias, lovely to see you as well. And Craig, fantastic to have you here. Please don't forget to give a thumbs up. And if you have any QQQs, write them in the comments there. That would be great. Yawn writes, greetings from Netherlands. This is about the ZR. Okay, I've still got the old D700. I do need a new camera. I think the D850 new, or Z8. I get a headache from it. You get a headache from the Z8. Still don't know what to do. Now the cameras are better than what you can shoot on a memory card. Yes. And 1 and 2 terabyte cards are expensive. Well, sure. I mean, they're very, very, very large. You can get 128s and 256s, and they're very, very affordable. Roger says sound and video is great. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate that. That's fantastic. Hello from Norway. What do you think we can expect from the upcoming Nikon cinema lenses? I hope they're based on the 1.4Z lenses. Yes, interesting. Now that's an interesting. I was going to talk a little bit more about the ZR, but because we've had this question asked, let's flip over to Z Cine. Now I'm going to have a little glass of water. It's been hot here all day. This is a great idea. This is an absolutely marvelous idea that Matthias has. Let's think to ourselves, Nikon never released S-Class 1.4s for the Z mount, did they? Never did it. They've just given us some 1.4s, which are fantastic, but they're non-S-Class. Could it be that we will get 1.4s that is a 20, a 24, 35, 50, will be 24, 35, 50, and 85 for now. Will they be 1.4s? And interestingly, it's very interesting that you say that, because the Sirui lenses that I've been testing kind of give me the sense of being the same proportions of the image, the silhouettes that we've seen. Now, you might say, how can I say they're the same proportions? Well, we can get a sense of its size based on the diameter, because the diameter of the mount, we know, is a fixed size. They're those Siruis are 1.4s. They feel similar. I like this idea a lot, but the cine lenses might be a range of 1.4 S-Class. Maybe they won't be called S-Class because they're Z Cinema, but they will be S-Class level. And I suppose the last question would be is, will they be autofocus? And I'd love for us to talk about that in the comments. Do you think Nikon will buck the trend of cine glass and make them autofocus? I think from that teaser image, we can see that there are teeth for the cogs. I'm pretty sure we can see that in the silhouette. That doesn't mean you can't make it autofocus. It's really interesting. And then a way to keep the price down and make people go, yeah, I really want this amazing S-Class. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if we got S-Class, modern S-Class, because they keep getting better, that didn't have autofocus, but they're significantly more affordable because of that. Because if you think about a 1.8S, they're pretty affordable. They're very good lenses. We're shooting on the 50mm 1.8S right now. Love this lens. I love that idea. So yes, I mean, the Z Cinema line and those 4 silhouettes and the fact that Nikon have teased it, it's 100% happening. There's no question at this point in time. It's been talked about by Keiji Oshii, who used to work within Nikon and is now the CEO of Red. Still works within Nikon, I believe, as well. He's kind of got the 2 roles. He said we were kind of thinking about, you know, which is code for we're thinking about them coming soon. It's kind of a year later since his original statement, or even more than a year, because that statement was made just after the purchase of Red, which I think was March or April of last year. And now we're physically seeing some bodies. So how far away? Let's talk about that in the comments. How far away might they be if we're being teased the first one? My guess is that we might get a lens or 2 before the end of this year, maybe. I think it would be a really powerful move to follow up the launch of the ZR with a few lenses, maybe a 35 and a 50, just like they've done with the other 1.4 lenses. And yeah, I'm loving this idea that they'll be 1.4 primes. They kind of look like they might be the right size. Let me have a look at these comments here. Sorry, they're flying along. Yawn's deleted some messages. That's okay. No worries. Craig, can the CFB card be removed from the ZF without taking the battery out? I assume the CF card is spring-loaded. You know, look, I didn't test that specifically, Craig, but I would say the answer is yes. The micro SD, no, that was sort of nestled below kind of the height of the battery. But if memory serves me correctly, because I had to give that camera back, it must be something like a month ago or longer now. But yes, my belief is it's spring-loaded, and it's definitely spring-loaded, and my belief is it's absolutely removable. And if you've got it in the cage is designed so that the battery door is still open, so you can still remove the card. That's the other part of that conversation. The card is absolutely, totally removable. So From my perspective, I think some people have made a mountain out of a molehill. Because it's interesting, you know, people, they talk about the FX3 being such a wonderful cine camera, but it doesn't have internal RAW. And I would have thought, if anything, you know, a cine camera kind of needs to have some sort of RAW format to be considered a cine camera. Now, I know you can get RAW out of HDMI, but you can get RAW out of all of these cameras with HDMI, or you can record in RAW onto something like an Atomos Ninja. So anyway, that's by the by. So yes, the card, I believe, can be removed just simply by opening the door. Absolutely. I'd be all over 1.4 primes. Yes, 20, 50, 85, says Craig. Yeah, look, I think this is a really good idea of Matthias's. Thank you, Matthias, for coming up with that idea. My guess is that we'll see them by end of October. I think they'll be AF, though you're able to, yeah, well, absolutely. We certainly need to be able to go manual as well. There's no question of that. And the fact that I believe there's cogs on them based on that silhouette, you wouldn't want to be driving one motor against another motor. Although I think Nikon have probably worked that out, because of course with the Nikon lenses, we can just grab them and manually focus them anyway now, just by making that. And I love the fact that you can do that. You can be using autofocus and then you can drag manual focus, and that's just a setting in the camera. I'm sure some of you know about that. Welcome, Joe. Great to have you here in the stream. Hey, Matt, just saw your streaming. Have a good show. You're the best. Great scene. Yes, thank you. Well, it's a very Grecian scene that I have here, Joe. And what are you doing up so late in Australia? It's like, what time is it? It's 2:35 in the morning. But welcome, and great to have you here. And it's wonderful to have our friends in Europe. I'm absolutely at a more European-friendly time here. I probably am in a very similar time zone to Norway, for example. Anyway, let's keep on going. So yes, so the cinema lenses, I think we'll see something this year, maybe one, maybe two. I think it'd be a really great move to have them out with the ZR, which is shipping now in about 2 or 3 weeks. And let me know in the comments, how many people are actually considering getting a ZR? Is anyone actually considering getting it? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd really love to know what your thoughts are. And if you are getting it, what other Z cameras do you currently have? Because that's, to me, quite interesting. What kit will you be adding? What kit will you be adding a ZR to? I think that's really interesting. Speaking of kit, we will stop talking about Z Cinema for a moment, and I'm going to share with you what gear I've brought away on holiday. And you will have seen some of it at work in the 2 videos that I've published so far since this journey began. And it's similar to the gear that I took to Japan 2 years ago. So the Z8, of course, which is a very versatile camera. And whilst I talk about what I'm up to, please let me know in the comments, if you're traveling overseas to places you've never been before, what gear do you take? I'd love you to let me know in the comments. What gear do you like to take with you? So what I brought with me is the Z8, because it's just so useful. And I tell you what I've used a lot is the 2.3 times crop in the 4K video, because what it does with this little lens here. So this is the 24-120 f4. This lens is absolutely fantastic. The only thing that would make it better for me is it being a 2.8, or, you know, even if I wanted to live an even crazier dream, an f2. But it would make it larger. And when you're traveling and getting in and out of planes and getting in and out of taxis all the time and moving rooms all the time, it's good to have small. So that 2.3 times crop takes us to near a 300 mil. I think it's something like 287 off the top of my head. I can't remember these. At 267, 287. Maybe somebody's got a calculator there. It's 120 times 2.3 would be the answer. I mean, we could work that out. 120 is 36. Yeah, I think it's 276. I think, is that the answer? Someone with a calculator, let me know. 276 mils in this little package when you're shooting 4K. Obviously, you can shoot in DX for stills, which takes you out to near 200. and you've still got almost 20 megapixels with the Z8. So this is such a powerful travel combo. This lens, this body, it's 45 megapixels. You can shoot low light, you can shoot handheld, high speed, fantastic battery life with the one battery. And of course, in this day and age, USB-C is everywhere. We are carrying batteries with us, like external batteries, to charge all of the just plethora of that we have. You know, it's just so much keeping our watches charged. So it's fantastic that, like, I really morning here. What's this morning? Connection is unstable. Oh, okay, stable connection. One of the comments things get a little bit jumpy, a little bit jerky, because we're going via 4G here. The 4G was better. The 4G was better than the Wi-Fi. Let me just have a quick look on my phone. What's happening here? Yeah, we still got. Oh, it's not. Okay, it seems to have come back. That's good. All right, we've got a whole lot of people talking here. Matthias has ordered the ZR, and I'll have it alongside my Z8. I want the Nikon D850 or the Z8, but I have a headache to pick one. All right, well, we can talk you through that, Yawn. We can talk about that. But to finish what I've brought with me, so the Z8, that combo, this combo, absolutely fantastic. And the other camera is the one that we're shooting on right now, which is the Z6 III. And the 50mm 1.8S. I've also brought the 85mm 1.8S, which I've used a little bit less, but I have used it. I love that lens. Like those two lenses, if you want to have absolutely superb glass at an affordable sort of cost, those two lenses. And for those that don't know, the 85mm 1.8S Z lens still sits in the top 10 sharpest lenses of all time on DxO Labs. Check that out. It's a fantastic lens, and you know, one of the very first to come out, which is amazing. You know, if we get some new S class or better primes in these Z cinema lenses, they're going to be something very special. Two more lenses. No, one more lens is I brought a wide angle, a super wide angle, which is the Viltrox 16mm 1.8. And I haven't used it much because you know, the 24 is wide enough most of the time, but it's there for the special occasions when something happens. So that's it. It's those four lenses. None of them are bigger than this, and you know, the total weight of all that stuff is probably, I would say, probably something like 4 kilograms, along with this laptop here, which is the 14-inch MacBook Pro M4, just the base edition, which has worked amazingly. It's very powerful. I'm able to do 4K video editing in Final Cut Pro, no problem at all. So this is a great little kind of rig to take with you. And then the microphones that I'm using here are the new Hollyland Lark 2s, which they're 32-bit, which means they will talk really nicely with the ZR when it comes out. They will be able to talk in 32-bit. So the 32-bit signal from here goes in through the port, and you get that beautiful 32-bit audio, which, you know, technically it's almost impossible to clip it. I made a video about these mics before I left Melbourne, but didn't get around to posting it. And I basically go from talking like this to singing in full voice, and the microphone can handle it. So it's really exciting having 32-bit float as part of the ZR. So that's the equipment, plus this light here, which I've got auto ISO on, so I might not need this light. But this is the, I don't know if you remember a company called Hobo Light. They changed their name because they realized that in other parts of the world, hobo was not necessarily the most positive thing to talk about or to name their company. So they changed their name to Harlow, from Hobo Light to Harlow Light. But this is probably a collector's item. This is such a great little light, plenty bright, and you know, it runs at 100% power for about an hour, all in this little package here. It's got various color temperatures. So that's my full kit to keep the whole thing running. There's the Hollyland, by the way, the little 2-mic kit. And these are the sort of batteries that I have. I love this little. I tell you why I love this battery, because you can put, this is a wireless charging pad. So if you forget a cable, you can just stick your phone onto that and it'll still charge. It'll still fast charge. Anyway, that's my kit. Let's have a look at what everybody's saying here. Sorry, I've been ignoring you. It's very rude of me. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you're in the mood. For video, yes, but I don't do video. That's my problem. Yes, okay, so let's... hi, Ray. It's fantastic to see you here in the chat. Where am I now? Well, I'm in a place called Lefkada, which, although I'm in a smaller town within the island of Lefkada, called... Come on. No, you're going to stroll past. Oh, well, there are a lot of cats, I can tell. Okay, we're getting another warning about the stream. Yes, so we've had Matthias, I think it was. Oh, no, Yawn, sorry. Yes, that's a fair enough point from Mr. Monitoring Support app. I think that they're the app that you get for the Red, which is pretty amazing. I agree. Let's go back to, just quickly, we'll go back to Yawn. Now, Yawn's interested in buying the D850 or the Z8. Now, tell us your use cases, Yawn. Tell us what you shoot mostly. Please let us know in the comments, and then we'll go from there. Now, who else is interested in getting a ZR out of all of the people that are joining us today? Sorry, I'm just reading a few of the comments here. And yes, people, you haven't let me know what cameras you take with you. And we've had someone up the top. I missed a comment in Catalonia at the moment from the UK. So yes, you are Yawn. There's another Yawn. Is that how you, or is that John Smith? Not sure who it is. I went to Catalonia yesterday or the day before, and yes, what a spot. And you are very close. We are very close. Maybe, although we're leaving here tomorrow, so I probably won't get to see you, unfortunately. We're going on to our next adventure. Can anyone guess where I'm going next? Roger's asked another question, which I completely missed. Sorry, Roger. Joe's going to buy one. Good work, Joe. Me too. I'm going to buy one as well. Roger said, related to my stills question, is the color science of red native in the ZR? Meaning a standard image on a ZR looks different. No, not from a stills perspective. How I understand it is that the red NE codec is what gives you the red color science. And when you change out of that or you change to stills, you are just still in Nikon's standard color science. So nothing will change from a stills perspective. If you own a Z6 III, and as we know, Z8, a Z9, a Z5 II, your images are going to look the same from a color science perspective. And obviously there are very slight differences between cameras, because every sensor is different and every RAW converter for every camera is different. But we're talking almost imperceptible differences. And someone did ask me, will we be able to use the red color science on stills? And right now the answer is no, that doesn't seem to be there. And look, it might come down to just simply some separation between their higher end red cameras, or just, yeah. I mean, I could also see a world, and please let me know if the stream is having troubles, because I'm getting an alert here that it might be. More than one ingestion is using send one stream to the primary ingestion URL. I don't know what that means. Hopefully we're still rolling. Am I still rolling, everybody? YouTube is sending me a message, and I don't know what it's about. But let me know if I'm still here. Yes, Joe, absolutely true. You certainly need to be able to use it. That's for sure. Yes, I'm still here. Thank you, Joe. That's good to know, because I don't know what that message means. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. Good at the moment. Thanks, Joe. Yes, well, 4G in the village, and because of now, tell me, would you like me to turn auto ISO off so you can see actually the ambient light now is a bit darker? Should we get a bit moody, or do you want me to leave the auto ISO just going slowly up and keeping this exposure the same? Let me know in the comments. Interrupted by an ad. Yes, so to go, it will shoot stills as we know it, and I could see potentially Nikon creating a color filter or a look which is very similar to red. I don't know if any of us need it, because there are so many looks. Not only are there so many looks now within our Z cameras, but there are also so many looks that you can buy from whoever. There's just so many opportunities. Sorry, I just have to have a glass of water. I've got a bit of a dry throat. I can see some comments flying along here. Still here in the USA. That's very good, Eric. Great to have you here. Sam, great to have you here. It's buffering, bit choppy. Okay now. All right. Well, we'll just fight on through. I don't know. It's telling me I've got 3 of 4G. You'd like to think that was enough, but it's possible there's a lot of people using like the one cell tower. I do have a European eSIM, which was pretty cool. First time I've used an eSIM. Possibly I've used my bandwidth for the day. I don't know. So if it gets too nasty, we can wrap it up, but I'd prefer not to. You can let me know in the comments how we're going. What did I do with my glasses? Craig says, I need to learn more about shooting vid in NRAW formats workflow, how to manage larger files, also learning Resolve now. Yeah, look, of course, shooting in Red RAW for the launch video, I had a beta copy of the Red software, which allowed me to read those files. There's no other software on the planet that would read it. And it's interesting. It took a little bit of getting used to, but once I got used to it, and the way it worked was you graded the footage, you could put whatever, you could put grain on it, you could mess it up in however you like. There was also noise reduction built into it. It's quite a comprehensive piece of software. And then it would allow you to then export it as something like ProRes. And you could do various levels of ProRes, which is still a very high-end format. And then that ProRes you were able to bring into Final Cut Pro. So that's how I worked with that footage in Final Cut Pro. DaVinci, nothing would read it. So even DaVinci wouldn't read it. I think. No, I could be wrong about that, actually. Yes, I might have been advised that I should use DaVinci. But look, I've used DaVinci a little bit, and I find it a little bit hard to use. It's got a completely different logic to it. But I know, for example, Joe, who's in the chat, he has started to work with DaVinci because he wants to move away from using Adobe, which many of us do want to move away from it. It's interesting. If you look at my thumbnails, every thumbnail I've made for the last 2 years has actually been made in Final Cut Pro. I'm not using Photoshop anymore. So it's amazing how little I use the Adobe platform. Very, very little. Now, Roger had another question, and please don't forget your questions. QQQ, any questions about the ZR or the Z cinema lenses, or any information about what lenses and cameras do you take away with you? I'm really interested when you're doing something like what I'm doing here, which is a once in 5 year family holiday sort of thing. Roger's question is, one more on stills. No, don't be sorry. You can ask as many questions as you like. I love it. Would it be worth it to pull a still frame? Yes, I was going to say that. Absolutely. So because you're shooting in 6K Red RAW at 12-bit. This is a fantastic file, and you can absolutely frame grab. The software, both Nikon's software and the Red software, have button that you can just grab a frame, and then you can export it as really high quality, like a TIFF or whatever you like to do. And if you want the Red look, also the Red dynamic range, because what I was told just before launch is that the dynamic range of the Red RAW codec is 15 plus stops. That's what they told us officially. So there's something about the Red codec which is different to all of the other codecs that gives it that ability to give you 15 plus stops. Another interesting aside that I'll talk about now. I wasn't going to talk about it until I could test it, and Ray pointed this out to me about a week ago. Thank you, Ray, for doing that. And that was, people are being able to. Now let me get this the right way around. I think they're able to. And Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, or I can go look at an email. But you change the file extension of, I think it's the file extension of Red files to the NRAW file extension, and then you can look at them in DaVinci. No, it might be the other way around. But this is really interesting on a whole lot of levels, because the fact that the NRAW and the Red NE files are interchangeable means that they've got a lot in common. And if you can just change the file extension, it basically means their DNA is very, very similar. And I still haven't fully processed what this means, but I believe it's absolutely doable, and people are doing it. As I said, I don't have the ZR anymore to test this, and I don't have my main workstation. I do have some Red files, but this laptop I have here just won't handle me putting DaVinci Resolve in it on top of everything else that's in it before I'll completely fill it up. Now, there's a lot going on in the chat here. Yeah, rename NRAW. So it's renaming NRAW to Red. That's what it was. Okay, where are we up to here? Yes, and Craig just said I think it's coming to Resolve soon. The other thing about Red NE is that you can edit Red files, like normal Red files, not the new Nikon one. That NE stands for Nikon Edition. Just with a little plug-in to Final Cut Pro. So I'm hoping that plug-in will allow us to use the Red NE files, because right now we can't use NRAW in Final Cut Pro, which I hope all of this gets resolved, because it'd make a big difference. Also, people have told me that NRAW is more compressed than Red RAW, even so they're both 12-bit RAW files. So this might have something to do with why the Red has the 15 plus stops of dynamic range, and NRAW is not quite as high. It simply might be the level of compression. It might be as simple as that the level of compression is different, and that the color codec, obviously the color science, the Red color science is different. And once we get much beyond this, we're beyond my pay grade, but I've got to read lots of comments here. Yes, Joe says he's enjoying Resolve. Grading is far superior to Premiere. Absolutely. Well, it's what it's famous for sure. Raymond says there wasn't much in the Final Cut Pro 11.2 other than ProRes for iPhone. Yes, it's not really going to impact us much, is it, Ray? So for those that use Final Cut Pro, we've just gone from 11.1 to 11.2. No, I believe the ZR does not have false color, but I also think that some of the cinema related tools, which you won't find in something like a Z6 III probably, and who knows whether they'll come in the future, I think we're going to see firmware pretty quickly to give us some of these sorts of things that people have been asking for. That's what I think is going to happen. And let's talk about it in the comments here. What are the things that you would like to see come to the ZR via firmware, and those sorts of things that cinematographers really want but don't have yet? please let me know in the comments below. But great point from Eric. Thank you very much. We've got Chaos 2100. That's a lot of chaos. Do you think the flash sync of 1/60th be an issue for a camera flash photos in live events? So I've been shooting flash a long time. There's no problem. Look, the interesting thing about flash is, and if you're prepared to be a little bit experimental, is usually you're shooting flash in low light, right? So that's what a flash is for, which means the ambient light is dark usually, and thus what happens is you can use the flash to freeze the action, and then the shutter speed is less relevant. Now, is this all the time? No, it's not all the time, but I certainly think you could get away with it by controlling aperture. So yes, the fact that it doesn't have a mechanical shutter does slow it down a little bit from those higher flash sync. And like the Z8 and Z9, if you deliberately shoot that once the flash is gone, it's dark. So let's say 1/60th at f8 or something like that. Fire the flash, then that freezes the action for you, and it will freeze, you know, because it's there for a very short amount of time. That and if Seth happens to be listening, he can tell us the difference between the actual duration, that bell curve, or someone else might know in the comments. But obviously, the speed of light is very quick and can pause the action. So that's the answer. So won't work quite the same in every scenario, but if you have good field craft, you could make it work for yourself, definitely. And geez, it's a great camera because it has so many things about it that are cool. Thomas says, "Hi Matt, what is the file size situation with the Red NA? Greetings from Sweden." Yes, well, it's interesting that you should ask that question, because if you've seen Matty Hapoya's video, he made a bit of a mistake by mixing megabits with megabytes, which is there are 8 times there's an 8 times difference between them. And so if you weren't watching earlier, I said that I was able to record something like 2 hours, 2 hours at 6K 24 frames, and it was around 1.3, 1.4 terabytes. So it's big, but the quality is exceptional. So I look, you have to really take seriously that if you're wanting to shoot in a professional level codec, that you're creating a highly professional look, then storage becomes part of that equation. And look, hard drives are getting cheaper and cheaper, but you know, if you buy a 22 terabyte hard drive and you're going to fill it up with a few hours of shooting, like, you know, a day or two of shooting, that's something that you need to think about. But you're getting, the thing about this is you're getting footage that you can grade. You're getting footage that you can change the exposure and the color temperature, and it's essentially like a raw photograph. And well, what's that worth to you, along with it looking spectacular as well? So some people are complaining about excuse me, some people are complaining about file sizes, but this is nothing new for RAW. And if you shoot on an ARRI in RAW, or if you shoot on some of the other RAW codecs, there's plenty of them around, you know, Blackmagic and so on, ARRI, and others. They're all huge. They're all huge. This one's actually quite reasonable. And I haven't looked in detail at the numbers of the new Canon C50, but it is even more hungry. And I don't think I don't even think it's when it's shooting RAW. It's when it's shooting some other codec. So I think this is a good balance of quality, flexibility, and file size. And if you do need it, then, you know, let's say you're working on a professional job, you're shooting a music video or whatever, and you're getting paid, and maybe it's $300 for a hard drive for that job to store all of that footage, then I think that's okay. You know, hopefully the job pays you $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. I don't know what you get for a music video these days, but that's part of it. The other thing is once the job is finished, you can transcode the footage to something that isn't as big. You basically you grade it, you make it how you want it to be, and you can transcode it to something much smaller if you don't want to keep it in its original format. So, you know, there's swings and roundabouts. There's ways around it. Anyway, yes. So they're big. That's how it is. Lots of comments flying in here. Let me take a look. Yeah, how much ouzo have you drunk whilst in Greece? Not enough, Costas. I need to drink more. There's absolutely no question. ZR doesn't have red exposure tools. That's correct. Yes. Craig C. I have similar indecision moments. You're not alone. Honestly, if dollars is not a primary deciding factor, get the Z8 and future proof. Yeah, no, and rent one. That's a great suggestion. That's a great idea. Go standard, get it in your hand. But the Z8 is, and you know, like I said, along with the Z6 III, it's just such a flexible tool. You can shoot high-end stills, you can slow, you can shoot fast. It's kind of got a bit of everything, and because you know, 45.7 megapixels might not be quite as much as say an A1, but in reality, it's a very small difference between the two. And so you've got that. You've got very high megapixels. You've also got the ability to crop to DX and get a 1.5 crop on your lens and still get just shy of 20 megapixels. Plus, if you shoot video, very different from a video perspective than a 850, no question. Let me keep looking at the comments. Maybe Costas, you should send me an ouzo. Why not? That might be a good idea. Craig C, never had a powered hot shoe. I assume incompatible with no. So the hot shoe has both the normal connectors as well as the electronic, the row of electronic teeth. So no, it appears to do both. Absolutely. I actually double checked the images of the ZR from above. So yes, it does both. It will still fire your flashes as normal. Yawn says, Matt, I do landscape and bands, but also flowers, animals. I like a lot. D850 or Z8, it's very hard to pick one of them. I only have a 50mm 1.8 and the Tamron 18 that is worth nothing anymore. Yes. Well, do you shoot video, Yawn? Let us know if you shoot video as part of that. Because if you're just doing stills, look, there's advantages. There's advantages of the Z8. For example, you have IBIS. You don't have IBIS in a D850. Your viewfinder is actually WYSIWYG. So what you're seeing through the viewfinder, if you set it up that way, is showing you actually what your exposure is going to be and actually what your depth of field is going to be if you set it up that way. But if, you know, and I don't know what the price difference between them is now. And plus secondhand, like, is there good secondhand options for both of them? There would certainly be good secondhand options for both of them at this stage. Because the D850 still sells new. I know that. Yes, Matthias. So some of the things you'd like is open gate, great one. Stop lights, great one. Lighter version of the compression. They are all sweet. I reckon we could see some of those in a firmware update in the not too distant future, for sure. Switching to mobile, be right back. Raymond has said, and we thought 8K was big, so now tilde. Which key are you pressing? What does that mean, Ray? Tilde K, but red sized. Not sure what you mean there. You can, 6K. Yes, 6K. Very good. Yawn says, I did have 2 photos in the NG Chanel calendar. What is that? What is the NG Chanel calendar? I am not sure what that is. Hello, Matt. Do you think Red Nikon will propose RAW codec in 10 bits to provide good color? Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's a good suggestion. It's probably not something that they thought of. They were probably thinking, how do we get the balance of good quality, good heat, performance, good battery performance. What's the best we can do? You know, I think the thing that we don't probably realize is they're pedaling so hard under the water, like paddling so hard under the water like a duck to bring us the ZR as fast as they have with red in it. Like, this has happened really quickly. And they're just trying to wow us as much as possible. Certainly over time, because we've definitely heard people saying we would like a light version, as has been written here in these comments, a light version of the Red NE. So yeah, absolutely, the 12-bit one. Or that's a reasonably good idea. I mean, not a reasonably, it's a really good idea. A 10-bit version for vlogging and so on. And I wonder if there's a limit to kind of creating redness, and the amount of bits that you need. Is 10-bit enough? But yeah, I love that idea, and it's another. That's looking quite nice, isn't it? Because we've now got the glow of the sky behind me. In real time live here, you've got the glow of the sky, you've got the glow of the building, and that's all looking pretty cool. Love it. Good frame from my perspective. Now, don't forget any more QQQs below, and please don't forget to like, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thank you so much for being here. It's been fantastic stuff. Joe is saying, good night, Matt. Enjoyed popping into the stream soon. Yes. Bye for now, sir. I will talk to you tomorrow. Yawn says, Matt, I do landscape and yes, sorry, you didn't. Video, let me go down there. I don't do video. Yes, I understand. There are also refurbished ones on Nikon, National Geographic Channel. Yeah, so Yawn, it's a hard one, but I think at the end of the day, I agree with Craig to future-proof yourself. The Z8 is going to be supported with more firmware, more updates, more cool things. I mean, there are things in the Z8 like auto capture. I don't know if you know about that, but you can literally set your camera up anywhere and just have it left on and have a set of parameters, which are quite a broad set of parameters, where it will react and start taking photos or start shooting video. And seeing as you do wildlife, you could literally have it set up, you know, looking down a track that, you know, a deer comes along or whatever, and it will start shooting once it sees it, or it'll start shooting once it sees an object at a certain distance. It'll start shooting when it sees an object in a certain part of the frame. It's actually a really, really powerful thing that Nikon has created that we only have in the Z6 III, I think recently, the Z8 and the Z9. So for very specific use cases, and you'll never get anything like that in the D850. Like the D850 is now 8 years old. It probably has had a couple of firmware updates, minor compliance updates for things like changes in Wi-Fi and so on. But, you know, we won't see any features added to it. And at some point, it will stop being supported officially, I suppose. It'll be end of life as well. Whereas the Z system, you know, this wonderful large mount, which is very short flange distance. I mean, there's one thing we haven't talked about. The difference between the D850 and the Z8 is the access to lens. So of course you can't put Z lenses on a D850, but you can put your D850, your F mount lenses on a Z body. You can do that via the adapter. The Z lenses are spectacular, and there are a lot of great third-party lenses coming out. You know, Viltrox are hitting it out of the park from a third-party perspective, and they have 4 ranges of lenses: the Air, the Standard, Pro, and the Lab. And even the Airs are really good, just fantastic. There's just so many options. So yes, I would push you towards the Z8, but I agree with Craig. Go test it out. Definitely go test it. Go and get into a store, get it in your hand, get a sense of what an EVF is like versus an OVF. Other than that, I think I agree with Craig. Go in that direction. Yes, Ray. So many Z lenses and so little money. Okay, Z8 it will be. No worries. Fantastic. I'm glad we were able to help. Costa says, I feel Bill Truck is really neglecting Nikon lately. We've become the red-headed stepchild. Bill Truck. Costas, what are you saying there? Can you say that again? No worries, Yawn. I'm happy to be able to help. It's really fantastic to have you here. Oh, Viltrux. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, let me read that again. I feel Viltrux is really neglecting Nikon lately. We've become yes. They've written to me, and there's a couple of lenses, some wide lenses that I need to take a look at. Another air lens. They obviously released the 35mm 1.2, which came out for the E mount. I certainly can imagine that Nikon do that when their beautiful 35 1.2 came this year. For that, it's interesting because the 135 1.8 lab came out, but it was something like 18 months after the planner. So my guess is the 35 1.2 will come out. We'll just have to wait a little while for it. But there's just so much stuff. I think the relationship that I would like to see blossom from a party or a non-OEM, because I agree with people starting to say that Sigma is not a third-party lens manufacturer. They are Sigma. They make their own cameras and they make their own lenses, and I think that's fair. But they're one of the few. They're probably the only, let's call them, first-party manufacturer to make lenses for other brands. So that we need to come up with a unique name for Sigma, because they make for Z-mount. They make a few Z-mount lenses, APS-C lenses. But yes, what I was going to say is we really need Sigma to be able to start making some more lenses for the Z-mount. I think that would be a wonderful message to send to the world. Obviously, Tamron has a lot of cool stuff, and there's just more and more Tamron stuff coming out all the time. I will be reviewing something from Tamron in a few weeks, a lens that I think a lot of people will actually be interested in a lot. So yes, there's stuff coming out from Tamron probably every 3 to 4 months for the Z mount, and they're really interesting because they're usually lenses that the OEMs don't make, like these ultra zooms, like these 24 to 300s or whatever, and they fit a really good place in the market. They're really great travel lenses really great travel lenses. Yeah, Ray, it's a pleasure. It's a great way to start your Sunday. What time is it over there in Canada? Let me guess. You're probably something like 7 hours different, 7, 8, 9. So but you're on the other side, so you're probably 11 hours difference. So it's probably, what is it, 9 a.m., 8 a.m., 10. Okay, there you go. I was close with 9 a.m. Fantastic. 7 Artisans. Look, we've got 7 Artisans as a brand. We've got TT Artisans. We've got Miki. We've got Sture, Pergear. And I've tried all of these lenses, and I've been being sent these lenses since the Z mount pretty much started, since about 2019, 2020. And they are just getting better every year. These lenses are getting better every year, and they're just a wonderful alternative. And look, there's a fair question around firmware as well as longevity, but there's got to be some difference between buying Nikon's first-party lenses that you pay a bit more for versus lenses that you might pay half or a third the price. Yeah, maybe they're not going to last as long, and maybe the firmware won't stay up to date forever. I don't know. I haven't had any of these lenses, and I don't sell the lenses that they send. I keep them all so I can continue to test and continue to compare. And I don't think I've had any lens that doesn't continue to work, especially if the manufacturers keep their firmware up to date, as well as obviously sometimes Nikon changes firmware, and a lens needs a bit of a firmware update. But I'm sure everybody knows that. Yes, what have we got going on here? Do you think we will get an EVF? Yes. Well, I was talking about this before. So I've seen a tally light, and this is literally a tally light that you use in a studio where you've got a switching board and a bright light will come up on the camera when your camera is the one that's on, just like you'd find in a news studio. And that's being made by a third party. There's a website for it. So if you Google something like Nikon ZR tally light, I'm sure that website will come up. So we've got tally light, we've got the microphone, we've got not seen yet, but announced XLR sound from Tascam. Is that what they're called? Tascam? Can't remember. I've gone blank on the name for some reason. I think it's Tascam. And also companies like Rode and Hollyland making the little digital shoes that allow us to plug what I'm doing here right now. Instead of going in via the stereo mini jack, we go in by the digital hot shoe. To me, it's almost a fait accompli that we should get a digital EVF to go in the hot shoot. Nikon's done it before. They've done it before with cameras that were just 10 years ago. You can see it in the V system, the V3 or whatever, the J3. The tiny little sensor. I bought one in Hong Kong in 2012. A later version of that was just a little compact camera that you could attach a digital EVF to. So a digital hot shoe EVF. So yeah, they've done it before. They know how to do it. And this camera is absolutely up for the taking. And what they could do is they could take on the ZVE1 or whatever it's called, the FX3 and the FX2, all in the ZR by adding that little EVF on top of it as well. It'd be great. I'd love it. And it would certainly help for some video situations and, well, photography. I mean, it would help with photography as well. Some people, we just want to shoot with an EVF. I'd be very surprised if Nikon or a third party doesn't make one. It's absolutely, I mean, the potential out of that hot shoe is enormous. And I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen more stuff coming from Canon and Sony, to be honest, because they have these shoes. And I just don't think I've seen that many products. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough, but I haven't heard anyone ever talking about them. And you could do all sorts of things. Digital sound is one of them. We love it. Sorry, the comments are flying along here. Let me take a look. I just want to talk about how beautiful is that light, by the way. The sun is truly set. It's 8:22 p.m. here. Roger said, your inside has been giving into gear acquisition syndrome for the ZR. Nikon needs to make it. Yeah, Nikon needs to make me an ambassador. It's okay. I'm very happy to be independent. I love the product. I think it's very powerful. I think it really does what it says on the box. Yeah, that's right. Something I want to talk. So I don't know if anybody managed to capture the rather random live stream that I did earlier today, where and I don't have it here, but I decided to test out the possibility of doing a live stream from an Axoon CMO, and I basically connected it via HDMI into here, and I was walking around, and you were having the view through the camera. The reason I didn't leave it up was because it's the very first time I've ever done it, and there were a few things that were. There's a possibility that I'm back now. I connected to the Wi-Fi. Hopefully, people on the Wi-Fi now. Am I back? Am I back? Woo! Okay, so I connected to the Wi-Fi. I don't know how long I was down for. Was I down for like 5 minutes? Because I might have to repeat everything that I just said. Can you tell me how long I was down for? Was it 5 minutes? How good is that light, though? You saw the mountain disappear in the background. That is just so cool. Oh, by the way, I wanted to share. Yeah, cool. I wanted to share with everybody. Plus I lost a big chunk of the audience, but that's okay. I love that some of you guys hung in there. This is the UAV or whatever it's. This is the connection via USB. So I don't know if you're aware, but to connect, and the ZR has this. Z6 III has this. I think the Z5 II has this. Maybe the Z8 just got it in its most recent update. But do you remember the Nikon web utility that we all used to have to install? Well, no longer. You do not need the web utility anymore. There is now a setting inside these cameras that I just mentioned, which allows you to just connect a USB-C cable. That's all you've got to do. Just thought someone was calling my name. I doubt it. Nobody knows me here. You just connect the USB-C cable. You go into the network menu. You say that you're going to be using UAV. And here we are. Get sound, picture, and it's at 1080 60 frames or 4K 30 frames. I don't know how to toggle between the two, but this looks fabulous from my perspective. 60, I would prefer 30, but because 60 makes me look a little bit higher shutter rate. But anyway, the fact that you don't need any software and you can just plug in, it's seamless and you're getting the whole signal. And it also, there's no delay. There used to be a delay with doing it otherwise, like doing it with HDMI or doing it with the webcam utility. There always seemed to be some delay. So this is really sweet. So if you've got any of those cameras, you can now, do Zoom calls or anything that you might want a webcam for using beautiful lenses, and you can do it this way. Now I can see the comments going again. Maybe I'll come back to that ambassador question. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that. Barry says you've got the loyal part of the audience, those of us with too much free time. Thanks. I appreciate the love. Although lots of people have come back. That's cool. Costas, the IT guy, is taking a smoke break. That's exactly right. We see that. The stream died as you responded. Yeah. All right. Well, I will say, I'm hiding in the attic to avoid decorating my house. Fair enough. It's pretty pixelated. Okay. Well, that's interesting. It doesn't look pixelated for me, but I'm sorry if it looks pixelated for you. That is because the Wi-Fi here is very slow. Okay, the ambassador thing. Yes, there is no ambassador thing. What I talked about when nobody was when nobody was able to hear me because the Wi-Fi went down. I'm guessing the data stream on my phone was full for the day. What I said is the reason I love talking about these cameras is that they're tools, right? They're amazing tools. I've photographed for 35 years, and if these things didn't allow me to be a professional, then you would get rid of them straight away. And I'm really excited to see that people like Matty Hapoya, who recently did a ZR first look video, he says there's no difference in focus between the ZR and all the cameras that he's used to. Now, this is something I've been talking about for years. That basically since the Z9, there's really, for 99.9% of users, there's no difference. And people like Seth, my dear friend Seth, who's in New York, who uses all the different cameras. He said, it's actually more to do with how you set them up. So I'm really happy that the rest of the world is catching up with the fact that these are amazing tools. The other thing that I find really interesting about Nikon, and I'm saying all of this, I think my wife's writing to me and saying, "Are we going to have dinner?" Yeah, it looks like great. I'm so good. This Wi-Fi is so good. So what I'll do is to stop torturing everybody. I'll just finish what I'm saying, and then I will wrap this up, because 144p is too painful for everybody. But what I was going to say is, let me just very quickly look at what my wife's asking me. Sorry, everybody. There we go. Back. I'm back. Okay. The thing that's really interesting to me about Nikon is, if you think about Canon and Sony, they are enormous companies, and their camera divisions are actually very small percentages of their overall income. For Sony, it'd be lucky if it's 1%. They are something like 10 times larger if not more. I think it's more actually, like 20 times larger, the market cap. And for Canon, it's something like 10 times more. So, and if you think about that's versus the market share differences, whereas Nikon, their imaging division makes up, depending on what year it is, anywhere between 30, 40, and maybe even, I think I've seen some years close to 50%. So imaging, photography is really, really an enormous part of the company, and it's really in their DNA. And I think at the end of the day, you see it in their products, you see it in the very refined iteration, you see it in the ergonomics, you see it in the color science, you see it in some of these less tangible areas that people very quickly discard because we've been having these conversations about autofocus for about 7 years. Yet all of this other stuff that Nikon does is well better than the competition from my perspective. And that circles me to something else I talked about, why there was the blackout. About the fact definitely best, and the number of buttons and the button play. Like, it's amazing to me that Nikon is still the only company that has function buttons at the front here where your fingers are. And they have, sorry, not the only, but they're the only ones that have the most. They have the most. Sony's had none up until their last two bodies. So they've gone 11 years. Took them 11 years to put one on the A9, and then I think one on the A1 II. Canon has one sometimes. But yeah, I don't want to deep dive into all of that. At the end of the day, what I'm wanting to say is it's so much in their DNA. And I just think these larger companies, it's just not as much of their DNA. And I think ultimately that comes through in what they do. And a lot of the negative we hear more about marketing, point scoring, and tribalism than anything else from my perspective. But no, Roger, there's no ambassadorship on the horizon. And from my perspective, to being a free agent, it's more useful. It's more useful for me. It's more useful for the audience. And I just genuinely love this gear because of what it's capable of doing. And what it's capable of doing, like this product, this Z8, which is an absolute, it's a little bit of a unicorn. When you think about the Z8 is sort of a Z9, but they decided to put it in a body that was 60% of the price, but it still has 97% of the features. And now you can buy them on sale, even cheaper, and secondhand, even. Like, it's just so much power. And nobody else creates anything like this. Like the A1, ridiculously, how much more expensive? 3 times the price, 2.5 times the price. It's as close as Sony gets. The R5 II is the closest other thing to this, sure. And then the Lumix one, well, I believe the sensor is not that fast in it. So yeah, Nikon have created some extraordinary tools, got them in our hands at great prices, and for us to be able to go and create. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. Anyway, at 144p, and yeah, at 144p, I will say good night, good day to everybody around the world. Good day to you, Ray, in Canada, and for those north of me, well, it must be dinner time for you. But let's have a look at these last comments. Well, thank you, Costas. Tell your wife your loyal followers need you. That's lovely. Thank you. A resolution just improved. It probably means one of my children has stopped using the Wi-Fi as they're waiting for me. This is just a bit of an impromptu chat, a last moment before we leave the beautiful village that I've been in. I will come to you live from another location. Hopefully style. Let me know if this sort of style of sitting and having a chat about the latest things that are going on, how you feel about that. I certainly catching up with you, and it's a lot of fun sharing this adventure. That other video I made, I'll refine that, because what that was about was actually showing you where I am walking around and having a camera's eye view. It was pretty good. Maybe I should put it up as unlisted, and then have a link here on this. Would that be worth doing? And then you can all give me feedback. I'd appreciate it. It's only 29 minutes long, and it's me walking around literally with you guys getting a view through the viewfinder of what I'm doing. But anyway, thanks, Matt. You may not desire or need it, but you are worthy of an ambassador title. Well, thank you very much. At the end of the day, Roger, I just really love what I do. I've always loved being creative. I love it, and I love finding what I think is a beautiful moment in the world around me. And I just hope I stay able-bodied and capable of doing this and sharing it with you for as long as possible. That's really what I want to do. I mean, it's what I've done my whole life. I've published books and calendars and cards and fine art and run my own galleries, and it's all about the same thing. And YouTube's interesting because it's kind of what I did before, but in a different medium. And I still do what I did before, but I love the fact we can connect globally. And that's just super awesome. Anyway, I'm going to let everyone go because the stream's not super high quality. Plus, my kids are hungry. All right, everybody. It has been so good to see you. I thank you very much. Don't forget to hit the like button. It'll help this stream get out there. And if you have any more questions about the ZR, write them in this in here or in the comments after this is not live anymore. And I can answer any questions. And, you know, I could do a general Q&A at a later date, a Q&A live stream, which is just answering questions about anything. If you think that's a good idea, send me an email or whatever and answer questions. All right, time to go. I will see you later. We're going to end the stream. Thanks, everybody. Bye.